If you guys aren't asking me about how much it costs to study abroad in Korea, you're asking me how to make Korean friends. So, let's talk about it. 안녕하세요. 안녕하세요, hey you. It's Natalia, and I'm back with another video about studying abroad in South Korea. Yes, I studied at Suncheonhyang University, so some of the things I'm going to say today are specific to Suncheonhyang's exchange program, but I tried to keep most of them kind of general so that they can apply to any Korean university that you're studying at. So hopefully you guys will find this helpful and you can make some Korean friends while you are staying or studying in Korea. It has been some time since I studied at Suncheonhyang, so some things might be a little different, especially given the world events that have happened. So please keep that in mind as I'm sharing my experience. The first tip I want to give you guys is to volunteer. So if you are at Suncheonhyang, you actually have the opportunity to volunteer as a TA for any of the English classes on campus. Now again, this is specific to Suncheonhyang, but I think if you're going to any like Korean university, you can probably look up the English language department and email the professors and see if they like want a TA to come and help them with the speaking activities or not. Because at Suncheonhyang, as a volunteer TA, you did not have to grade anything. You were not asked to teach. You did not have to do anything outside of the like 30-40 minutes that you were there in the classroom helping students practice English. So basically, if you signed up to a TA1 class, you would show up once a week to a certain room and you would just help the professor get the students talking. So if the teacher said, okay guys, we're gonna talk about hobbies, you would sit down at a table with some of the Korean students and you would say, what are your hobbies? I like playing volleyball. And it just kind of gave them more of the opportunity to speak with a native speaker because, I mean, the professor can't be everywhere all at once. And I really enjoyed this because the students that were in these English classes were different from the Korean students that were in my like cultural exchange dorm program. The students that are in the Suncheonhyang Global Village are all students that are used to exchange students. They probably have better or stronger English skills than the students that are in the other English classes or outside the program. So, oh my gosh, like the questions that the students in Global Village will ask you are on a completely different level than the questions that the students that you would TA will ask you. And it's not their fault. You're probably the first foreigner they are meeting, but they ask you some really innocent questions that are kind of like cute. My first semester I TA'd for 2 English classes, and then my second semester I TA'd for 3. So it was lovely. I really enjoyed it. Now I will mention at Suncheonhyang you're only meeting with each class once a week, so it takes a few weeks to become like friendly with any of the students, or at least to talk to them regularly. But it is possible. I did make some friends. I do have them on Instagram. Like, yes, it's definitely an option for you if you're at Suncheonhyang. If you're at a different university, it'll take a little more legwork, a little more research to see if you can do that, but it's always worth looking into. In regards to volunteering outside of being a TA, there are a lot, and this is specifically like if you're in Seoul or Busan, there are so many volunteer opportunities available to you as a foreign student. So if you just look up volunteer in Seoul, then you will see opportunities to help like North Korean refugees, or to work at like a church, or work at an orphanage, or to help at a pet shelter. So while these aren't specifically for making Korean friends or anything like that, they're good opportunities to kind of like step out of your university ecosystem into like life in Korea, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but usually at one of these volunteer organizations, it's not just foreign students or foreign residents, it's a mix. So that gives you a good opportunity to network, again, outside of your university ecosystem. The second way to make Korean friends while you're an exchange student in Korea is to join a student organization. And I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. This is very hard to do. And it's not hard to do because the Korean students aren't welcoming, like they would love to have you there. It's difficult to do because you need a high level of Korean, most likely, for most clubs. That is the case. I tried to join a club at Suncheonhyang University. It was like a travel club where the students travel together to different areas of Korea. And at the time, I spoke low intermediate Korean. And I remember going to the first meeting and only understanding maybe like 30% of what was going on. And while that necessarily isn't a problem, I could definitely feel that me and my friend Laura, who came with me, were kind of like we were a bit of a burden on the club because they did not speak English. And I remember one of the first things, like not even one of the first things, the only thing I heard once we walked into the room was 외국인이 왔다. 너 영어 할 수 있어? 나 못해. 너 영어 할 수 있어? Like they kept asking each other around the room, like, do you speak English? Do you speak English? I don't speak English. How are we gonna communicate? I don't speak English. Do you speak English? Oh my gosh, one of us needs to speak English. And the others were like, no English, no English. So while I understood them, I couldn't speak enough Korean to understand what was going on in the meeting. Really, like I understood we were doing a party, we were doing a festival, we had to contact some 선배s who had graduated. Everything else in that like hour-long, probably 45-minute to an hour-long meeting went completely over my head. Maybe your club, depending on which one you want to join, will be different. There might be like 1 or 2 students that will feel comfortable speaking to you in Korean, because one thing I did notice about Korea is like, even if a student, like a Korean person, speaks some English, usually they're too shy to use it while in front of other Koreans. It's like yeah. So even if one of them speaks English, they might not talk to you, even when you need them. Now, if you're gonna go to Suncheonhyang, there are a few clubs. I remember seeing a volunteer organization, a music organization. I think they like played guitar or something. There was one for singing, there was one for dancing. There were a few others, but at the time I couldn't read their signs because they were unknown Korean vocab to me. But in general, I think there weren't much more than 15 or 20 clubs, just based on like the open house that they did to recruit new members. So yeah, keep that in mind if you're going to go to Suncheonhyang. I'd also like to mention that one of my Korean friends from Suncheonhyang told me that after I had left, like after my exchange had ended, the Korean students specifically, need to clarify, the Korean students were trying to create a new club that was meant to match exchange students or international students, both types of students, with a Korean student. So it'd be like a buddy system. I don't know if that ever came to fruition, but if you're gonna go to Suncheonhyang, it would be good to look into. Ask the FLEC office or ask the study abroad representative if that became a thing, because if it did, that would be so cool. If you're going to a different university, one of the universities in Seoul, they probably have a lot more clubs than Suncheonhyang University, just because I think they're a lot bigger. I know if you're going to Seoul National, they have a club called SNU Buddy, like SNU Buddy, that is literally that mentorship program that I just talked about. They hold like events and get-togethers where it's like the international and exchange students with Korean students. I saw it on YouTube. I didn't experience it myself. I do want to clarify that. Also, if you're really like dedicated to finding Korean friends, usually there's a club on campus that is like for English, like for learning English or for practicing English conversation. So if you can find it, I'm sure they would be more than happy to have you go, but just know that you are gonna be like used for your English. Well, not used, but like they're gonna want to talk to you in English. So if you're trying to like learn Korean and that's why you're trying to make Korean friends, that might not be the best way to go about it. Tip number 3, if you're studying in any city that has a reasonable sized population, meaning anywhere other than where Suncheonhyang was, then you should look into language exchange meetups. Yes, it is what it sounds like. So there are a lot of organizations in Seoul and Busan specifically that have these exchanges, meaning that it's kind of just like an event that's usually held at a cafe or an event hall, and it's just meant for people to connect with other people. So you can go and practice your Korean, and then the Koreans can practice their English. I think it's a really good opportunity to meet people that are outside of your university ecosystem. Honestly, guys, the more like connections you make outside of your university, the more fulfilling your life in Korea will be. When I say life, I mean your exchange student life. Tip number 4 is one that you can do no matter where you are studying, and that is, if you are religious, I highly encourage you to find the local church, the local mosque, the local religious institution that matches your religious beliefs. And I say this because, as I've mentioned several times on my channel, I actually attended church during my second semester in Korea, and guys, I made some of like my most precious memories with the youth group there at my church. I was having dinner with them every Sunday after our service. I was like traveling. We did an MT together, which if you have studied in Korea, you know how big of a deal it is to go on an MT. It's like camping, kind of. It's like bougie, not bougie necessarily, but it's camping where you just go with the students in your organization, which usually it's like a club, but we're a youth group, so you know, church. But so it's like you just have lots of meat, you eat lots of yummy food, you play games, you drink a lot of soju or like alcohol. It's a lovely, lovely time. And then I remember they actually invited me to go skiing with them as well, which unfortunately I was not able to go because it was after my flight date back to the US. But the fact that they invited me is what is important. So the friends that I made at my church were a completely different group of Korean friends than the ones that I had at my university, like completely separate. I know not every church or every mosque or every religious institution is gonna have as lively and as welcoming as a youth group as the one that I had. I was very, very lucky, but I think it's worth a shot. You should really go and give it a go, see if there's something there, because like the friends that I made at that church are still like friends I have today.
Hi.
You want to introduce yourself? 소개해 주실래요?
안녕하세요.
이름도.
Hi.
But okay.
Hi, I'm Bigfoot.
Big what?
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, apparently. 명주 오빠. Apparently. And I've been asked about this a few times, so I'll go ahead and mention it. I'm not gonna give out the name of the church that I attended because my friends still go there, and I think it would be a little inconsiderate of me to say like where they are every Sunday. You know what I mean? I hope these tips help you guys make Korean friends so that you can have a more fulfilling, let's go with that, a more fulfilling time studying and living in Korea as an exchange student. And I will see you guys in the next video. So, 다음에 봐요 guys. Bye.